Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags and Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our final review of Prehistoric Metal by Darkthrone. So Darkthrone is not a stranger to this channel. We've covered them a few times. Don't think we've done any reactions, to be honest, but we've reviewed a couple of albums. We did Old Star or Dark Star.
Old Star. That was back in 2019.
Yep, and we didn't really like that one too much, but we also reviewed Transylvanian Hunger when we did our black metal week a couple years ago.
We weren't huge on that one.
Weren't huge on that one either.
That one was more particular.
It was more particular. It's a tough sell. Like old school black metal stuff, I mean, you have to really be in the right mood, or it's a really acquired taste to really enjoy that.
I think it's a mix of all that. You really have to be into it, but it's also like you got to be in the mood for that. It's kind of like its own thing in that regard. But
I mean, I go back, like I'll listen to what they call the Unholy Trinity, like Blazing Northern Sky, Transylvanian Hunger, and what's the other one? The first three Darkthrone albums. I can't remember, but I should know what it's called. But it's drawing a blank. But yeah, I'll go back and listen to them, and I enjoy the albums, but reviewing them, they just don't review that well. That's how I feel about it. So for this one. Oh yeah, it beckons us all. We also covered it, but didn't review it.
Yeah, that was in the first impressions.
That was the last album.
I remember enjoying that, and then probably even saying like, man, you know, I didn't really like Old Star, but I like this one.
Yeah.
And we even said that last week about this album, like, oh yeah, this is better.
Yeah.
But now that we've listened to it for a week, what do you think?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure what to expect through the week, because my first impressions of this album was kind of threw me off, because they did some weird things on this album. Some new things, some experimental things that Darkthrone doesn't really do. Mostly in the realm of the vocals. You got these, I don't want to say weird, but for Darkthrone it's weird, these high falsetto, almost King Diamond style vocals on a few of the songs. Personally, I really like that.
I do like
so that too. I can see maybe a Darkthrone fan being turned off by that, going, what the heck is this? This doesn't belong in this. But me, as somebody who's not quite a Darkthrone fan, listens to that and go, wow, I really like that they're doing this. So I feel like there's going to be some people butting heads on opinions based on this. But for me, it was something that was actually pretty attractive to me musically. So the album was interesting to me through the week, let's just say that. I'm going to start off with the song that I think is the weakest song on the album, and that's the opening track, They Found One of My Graves. This is a song that, if anything on this album sounds like old school Darkthrone, I think this is the closest to it. Not that it sounds like that, but I think it's the closest one. I think there's a simplicity to it, and I do like the simplicity of it, but it just was maybe just too straightforward for me. After that, you got what's probably the best song on the album, that's the title track, Prehistoric Metal. I love this song. This is the first example of some cool, screamy vocal stuff that's not typical and normal for this band. One of my favorite parts of the album is the groove they hit at the bridge. It leans into that realm of that black and roll, which I mentioned in the first impressions. I love that. It gets me every time. And there's also this little, like, hoo-ah before that part kicks in that I also love. I love the hi-hats on this part. It's a feel-good moment. And it was something I looked forward to every single time this song came on, and as the album replayed, it was just a part that stood out to me each and every time. The next song that I really liked was the instrumental, So I Marched to the Sunken Empire. Nothing spectacular. It's not like the War's Infinite Opus by Inferi or anything like that. That's like one of my go-to instrumental songs. But it's just really cool. I really enjoyed it each time it came on. I feel like it serves a nice purpose on the album. It's not crazy. It doesn't sound super evil. It also sounds like a bit of a departure from their classic, typical sound. But again, I don't mind it because it sounded really good. After that, the last song on the album, Eon 4, I think is also up there with Prehistoric Metal. Fantastic song. Really like the riffings on this song. I mentioned last week that it kind of reminded me of Iron Maiden, but I couldn't quite pinpoint which song I might have been thinking of. So I kind of just attributed it to more of just like that British new wave sound, is what I was kind of thinking. But the riffs on this song sound different than the riffs on all the other songs. It almost sounds like its own thing. And I think that makes sense too, because it's a continuation of Eon 3 from the previous album. And I thought it was interesting because I put Eon 4 in my playlist, and then for kicks I went back and looked at It Beckons Us All, and the only track I put in my playlist from that album was Eon 3. So I thought it was kind of weird that both those songs, and I actually don't know Eon 1 or Eon 2 if they even exist, or what albums
Eon
they're from.
1, I believe, is on one of the earlier albums. I think
Yeah.
Eon 2 was either slightly before Old Star or slightly after.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the original one is a pretty old Darkthrone song.
Yeah, so
They exist though.
I'm probably gonna go back and listen to those two tracks to see how they line up with these, with number 3 and number 4, and see if they also catch my attention in that different kind of way that these ones did. But yeah, this song I think was great. It's a great closer for the album, and you know, there's a one part that I like where it's kind of like the song's kind of relatively light and upbeat for Darkthrone. Like, it sounds a little bit happy in a sense, I guess you could say. And then it kind of just goes, "Durr," and it just kind of drops down. The tone just shifts. I might have mentioned this in my first. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video or if I just told you about it.
I don't think you told me, so it must.
I might
If
have
it
mentioned
was in a
I might
video.
have mentioned
I
it
don't
last
remember you
week.
telling me about it.
I feel like I'm repeating myself because I have the same note as I did from last week. But anyways, I like that part.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool creative choice. It kind of just like changes the tone, changes the mood of the song, like in the middle of it. It's subtle too. It's not something that's drastic, but I like that. There's also a few other little things here and there with certain songs where they have little vocal ad-libs, like maybe silly things like in the song Deeply Rooted. I find this whole song a little bit monotone. The bridge I think is really good, but at the end you have this guy that to me sounds like Weird Al Yankovic going, "Really?"
Oh, that, yeah. There's another song that does it where he's just like, "Yeah, fucking right."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those things, they're kind of funny in a way, but they also give the album character. They give it, like, some type of personality, and those are things that I'm always looking for. It doesn't have to make the song, it doesn't make the song amazing just by having that in there, but it gives the album, like, something to stand out. You know, when that part hits you, like, okay, now I know what part's coming next. It kind of, it's like a marker or something.
Yeah.
Hard to put into words, but it really sounded like Weird Al to me, that one. Really? Really weird, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, Siberian Thaw is a great song too. The Dry Wells of Hell has probably the most King Diamond type of vocals on there. Some nice riffs on there. Yeah, like I got pretty decent notes throughout. I'd say other than They Found One of My Graves being the weakest track, none of the other songs really were amazing. Prehistoric Metal up there, Eon 4 up there, the rest of them kind of, you know, in a middle ground somewhere, but with parts that I liked.
Where should I start with my thoughts on this album? I feel like I could start in a few places that kind of jump off of stuff that you said. I'll start with creativity, because you mentioned like all these creative decisions. I think this album had a few cool creative decisions, and I'll say, So I Marched to the Sunken Empire, even though it's not the best instrumental I've ever heard, I think I can appreciate the fact that they did something like this on the album.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that it's there. You know, I can appreciate the fact they did it. I like that and that aspect on it. You said last week that like this album sounds like they're having fun.
Yes.
And I like that, and I think that's true. And that comes out in the music, and that makes it more genuine.
Yep.
I think that's pretty cool. I am curious what Darkthrone fans think of this version of the band, because I'd say it's really not that much comparable to like the original, you know, few albums, Blaze Northern Sky, Under a Funeral Moon, and
Under Funeral Moon.
Yeah,
Why didn't you correct me when I was drawing a blank?
It took me literally like after you said that, I spent a bunch of this time sitting here thinking about it, and I figured it out. But I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and then Transylvania Hunger. I'd say this is very different than that. So I'm curious. Like it's kind of just a completely different version of Darkthrone. Anyway, I'd say the Dry Wells of Hell probably sums up everything about the album I like. I feel like everything positive I could say about this album comes out in this song. It's got cool riffs, cool ideas. It's the most... You said King Diamond. I kind of attribute it a little bit more to Merciful Fate. I said that last week, but
I mean King Diamond as a vocalist, not as a band.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. I like the riffs. I like the ideas in there. That one, because it's like, yeah, this is pretty good, you know. And I feel like, funny enough, They Found One of My Graves to me felt like a pretty consistently good track, but nothing in that track really stood out or jumped out to me. But I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. But the title track, it's funny how we kind of contrast here. you already mentioned it. The bridge groove in the title track is really good, but outside of that, I don't really care for that song. It's just that moment, it's like, yeah, this is cool, but the rest of it's like, whatever. And that kind of illustrates one of the problems I was having with this album. Okay. A lot of songs would be like, oh man, that part's really good, but the rest of it is like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to like these songs more because it's not like they're even bad. It's just like, they got one pretty cool part, but it's not even a mind-blowing part. So it's not like, oh, did you hear that? It's like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's like, fine. You know, a good example of that as well for me is Eat Your Pride. The B section and even the bridge are pretty good, but outside of that, the track just kind of feels whatever to me.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like the album is having standout moments and standout cool parts. I just wish there were songs that were more consistent that way, because there are a few on this album that are.
Yeah.
But even so, like for a while, it kind of felt hard to write notes because I'm like, what do I really say? It's an album that's pretty straightforward, but I really appreciate and like the fact that, you know, black and roll is a really good way of putting it for this record.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's a good blend between black metal and heavy metal, really. But there was a back and forth experience I had with the record. Because there would be times I put it on, oh yeah, these riffs are pretty good. All right, yeah, this is part of the song. And then there's times I put it on and I just would feel it now. You know, so I was really back and forth on it, but there were things in this album I could appreciate, like I already mentioned. So I will back you on that. The High Falsetto, which I believe happens in 2 songs, really, really cool. I like those every time I've heard them.
Yeah.
Low key, I'd like to hear more because I think that's cool. But at the same time, if you overuse it, then you either become that or it feels like it's being forced.
Change your identity too much, and that's why I was asking what I guess more hardcore fans of the band would. How they feel about that, right? Even though it's only in there, kind of sprinkled in. I mean, that's not something that these guys are used to doing. So.
Exactly. So, with that said, would you like to rate this album?
Sure. I'm just gonna double down on the thought that we have about this. Sounds like an album that these guys had fun making.
Yeah.
And I think that that's apparent. I think it's evident. You listen to a song like Eat Your Pride. Just the name of that song sounds like they're having fun. That doesn't sound like a serious name for a song. The song's got a bit of a fun, upbeat, kind of punky vibe to it. Just an example, but the album as a whole just sounds like it was, I don't know if passion project's the right word for it, but it seems like they really did care about making this album, and they had fun doing it, and they were in the right mind space. And I think that, for me, went a long way, because I didn't think any of this album was bad. I thought the whole thing was pretty enjoyable. The problem is, for an album to get like Toe Tag, for example, it's got to have some really, really strong, like powerful moments. And this doesn't really have any of that. It's all really good, but nothing super, super strong. So for me, it's unfortunately going to be shy of a Toe Tag. It landed at a 7.5.
Wow. Impressive, especially considering the ratings that you've given the other 2 albums you reviewed.
Yeah.
Like, I believe Transylvania Hunger, I don't even remember, we gave it really, really low scores.
Yeah.
And I believe you gave Old Star like 4.
That sounds about right. But yeah, this is a different kind of Darkthrone. This is Darkthrone doing something a little bit differently. Like, it still sounds like Darkthrone. It doesn't sound like a completely different band, but they definitely pulled a bunch of new tricks out of the hat.
So for me, it's weird. The weird thing that I feel is that this album has a lot of cool things about it that I can appreciate and enjoy, but at the same time, if I'm looking at my overall experience with this album throughout the week, it didn't have as much staying power as I would have wanted. So it's like, well, yeah, I like this album, and everything you said, I agree with. It sounded like they're having fun. I said that's a genuine thing that you can feel in the music. I like that. I like that a lot. And I think I appreciate and respect that 1,000-fold. But in terms of the songs, there was a chunk of them that were like, yeah, pretty good songs, and some of them that just didn't have as much or only had one moment that was pretty good. So I feel like it had a bit of a consistency issue. So unfortunately, it landed at a 5.5 from me, which feels weird because I gave Old Star a 5.5, but I like this more. But our rating system today is a lot different than how we rated things in 2019.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, it was basically vibes.
Yeah.
And now we actually have a numerical system in place. We rate the songs, like it's all, calculated by a formula. So I rate the songs, and then okay, it landed at 5.5. So I feel like if I were to apply that to how I felt about Old Star, that would have been a lower one.
Probably.
So I like this more than that one, but it just kind of landed the same score. But that's where it was for me. But I don't dislike this album. I think it's pretty good. I'm just really curious. Maybe I'll just have to listen to more Darkthrone to just see how the band evolved over the years, because this is a lot different. When we did Transylvania Hunger, this is completely different.
Yeah.
You know? Just to see how the band evolved. Now, I remember listening to the other two of the Unholy Trinity, even back when we were doing that one during our Black Metal week. And I did like those more, but, like, then Transylvanian, but I really want to just see how we got here, you know? Curious of that.
Well, it's a 5.5 from TV Fish and a 7.5 from me. Darkthrone's not making it on the toe tag list this time, but we want to hear from the Darkthrone fans and what you guys think of this album and the progression of the band and the direction they've taken it. Sound off down below and let us know what you think of this album, and if you agree with us or don't agree with us and all that fun stuff. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Wild Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep those heads banging.